Welcome to my podcast, Love and Courageous. I'm your host, Demetris. And on today's episode, I'll be speaking about the companies that roll back DEI. Also, how this hurt Black-owned businesses, and I will list some Black-owned businesses that we can support. So here are a list of the companies who are rolling back DEI, also known as Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion programs. So Google is one of them. Google announced in February that it will be purging its DEI initiatives, including its efforts to hire more employees from underrepresented backgrounds. Also, Google renamed a executive position from Chief Diversity Officer to VP People Operations. Aldi is another company that removed all evidence of DEI programs from its website in January without making a public statement. Now, however, Aldi removed its Aldi Inclusive section, which claimed diversity strengthened us, and outlined the company's initiatives, including resources and internships for employees, as well as its decades-long support for the United Negro College Fund and its $5.5 million DEI philanthropic fund. Target is another company that is rolling back DEI. So on January 24th, they announced on social media the conclusion 3-year diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. The company said it will end its racial equity action and change REACH program sometime this year. They also said they'll be stopping all external diversity-focused surveys, including HRC's Corporate Equality Index. Target also will be evolving a supplier diversity program to instead focus just on supplier engagement, a move intended to better reflect our inclusive global procurement process across a broad range of suppliers, including increasing their focus on small businesses. Amazon is another company who quietly removed several policies from their public website aimed at protecting workers, including solidarity pledges with its Black employees and healthcare benefits for transgender workers. The changes include several to policy as well as department titles. A section previously called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is now Inclusive Experiences in Technology. And the section Advanced DEI through Technology is now a pledge to advance the employee experience. Now, one of the policies that were removed includes an outline of the gender-affirming care benefits provided to employees under Amazon's healthcare plan, which it said that were based on the standards of care published by the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, also known as WPATH. Also removed was the company's pledge that is working at the U.S. federal and state level on legislation that will provide anti-discrimination protections for transgender people. Now, even though Amazon stated that it stood in solidarity with Black employees, the company removed that section as well, as one claiming to support legislation to combat misconduct and racial bias in policing, efforts to protect and expand voting rights, and initiatives that provide better health and educational outcomes for Black people. Meta is also another company after announcing new content rules that allow users to abuse LGBTQ plus people. Meta announced that it will be ending all of its major DEI programs immediately. The company behind Instagram, Facebook, and Threads sent out an internal memo obtained by Act2Us, which will affect both hiring and training practices as well as the decision on which suppliers to work with. The changes include completely axing the Meta's DEI team. The company's Chief Diversity Officer, Maxine Williams, will enter a new role focused on accessibility and engagement. The company said, I quote, Instead of prioritizing partnering with diverse businesses, Meta will focus our efforts on supporting small and medium sized businesses that power much of our economy. Instead of inclusion based efforts, the company will be creating programs that focus on how to apply fair and consistent practices that mitigate bias for all, no matter your background. Meta will also be in its representation goals, which Vice President of Human Resources, Janelle Gale, claimed, I quote, can create the impression that decisions are being made based on race or gender. Adding, while this has never been our practice, we want to eliminate any impression of it. Another company is McDonald's, made an announcement that it will be making several changes to its practices, including retiring, setting aspirational representation goals, seizing DEI requirements for its suppliers, and pausing external surveys focused on inclusion, including the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index, also known as CEI. The company said it will be changing the name of its diversity team to the Global Inclusion Team, which it said more fitting for McDonald's in light of our inclusion value. Now, the company said that it was motivated to make the changes after the U.S. Supreme Court ruling against affirmative action, Students for Fair Admission versus Howard, as it assessed the shifting legal landscape to anticipate how this ruling may impact corporations such as McDonald's. The company also will consider the actions of other corporations that have cut DEI efforts and benchmark our approach to other companies who are also reevaluating their own programs. Walmart is another one. The company made a statement saying it will no longer participate in the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index, will make changes to its diverse, equity, and inclusion policies, and will monitor its marketplace to ensure inappropriate sexual or transgender products are not marketed to children. Another company, Molson Coors. The company sent a notice to employees back in September that revealed it will no longer have specific representation goals for its employees and suppliers, nor will be participating in the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index, in which it previously had a perfect rating. It will no longer be sponsoring events such as Pride celebrations. Ford Motor is another one. An internal memo was leaked and said that Ford, which has nearly 200,000 employees, will back away from commenting publicly on the many polarizing issues of the day, although there may be times when it's necessary, and that executives had already decided not to participate in external surveys such as Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index. The memo said the company remains committed to fostering a safe and inclusive workplace, but has more work to do in this area. They continue by saying, we are mindful that our employees and customers hold a wide range of beliefs, and the external and legal environment related to political and social issues continues to evolve. HRC President Kelly Robinson condemned the move by stating, I quote, today Ford Motor Company abandoned its commitment to hundreds of thousands of employees by countering to internet troll Robbie Starbuck and signaling that inclusion and other core values are no longer a priority in the workplace. After decades of commitment to inclusion and top ratings on the HRC Foundation Corporate Equality Index, the Bloomberg Gender Equality Index, Disability Equality Index, as well as their long-standing philanthropic record funding scholarships for Hispanic students, and the Human Rights Campaign could not be more disappointed to see Ford Motor Company shirking its responsibility to its employees, consumers, and shareholders by failing to support women leaders, employees of color, and LGBTQ plus employees. Ford Motor Company is abandoning its financial duty to recruit and keep top talent from across the full talent pool in making their purchasing decisions. And consumers should take note that Ford Motor Company has abandoned its commitment to our communities. HRC also stated that the organization evaluates every Fortune 500 company on issues of equality, whether or not that company submits additional information to HRC about its priorities and progress. John Deere is another one of the nation's leading farm equipment manufacturers, made a statement, I quote, "We will no longer participate in our support external social or cultural awareness parades, festivals, or events. Business resource groups will exclusively be focused on professional development, networking, mentoring, and supporting talent recruitment efforts. Auditing all company mandated training materials and policies to ensure the absence of socially motivated messages, while being in compliance with federal, state, and local laws, reaffirming within the business and the existence of diversity quotas and pronoun identification have never been or are not company policy." Lowe's Hardware is another company. The company informed employees that the company will no longer participate in the HRC Corporate Equality Index and that its internal employee support resources for those belonging to minority groups will all be combined into one umbrella program. The company also said it would end its sponsorship of and participation in community events such as parades, festivals, or fairs referring to LGBTQ plus pride parades. Harley Davidson, the iconic motorcycle company, made a statement saying they are pulling out of the HRC index and that it will ensure that employee training will remain absent of socially motivated content. They said, I quoted, "We are saddened by negativity on social media over the last few weeks designed to divide the Harley Davidson community." Company officials said, "As a company, we take this issue very seriously and it is our responsibility to respond with clarity, action, and facts. We remain committed to listening to all members of our community as we continue on our journey together as one Harley Davidson. United we ride." Brown-Forman, which is the maker of Jack Daniel's whiskey and other beverages, is another company that Rollback DEI told its employees in an email that it would no longer participate in initiatives like the HRC Index and that it will end quantitative workforce and supplier diversity ambitions. They said, I quote, "We will continue to foster an inclusive work environment where everyone is welcome, respected, and able to bring their best self to work. We know it will not be easy to navigate the road ahead, but please know our deep belief in and respect for each of you remains constant." Tractor Supply is another company. The Tennessee-based animal feed and farm retailer announced that it was abandoning all diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives following a barrage of pressure from far-right activists. The changes include halting data submissions to the Human Rights Campaign, refocusing team member engagement groups on mentoring and networking, eliminating DEI roles, retiring current DEI goals, and shifting environmental focus from carbon emissions to land and water conservation. The company will cease sponsoring non-business activities like pride festivals and voting campaigns. Toyota Motor announced that it was refocusing its DEI programs and ceasing sponsorship of LGBTQ plus events. The company sent a letter to 50,000 of their employees and 1,500 dealers, company leaders, cited a highly politicized discussion about DEI and said the automaker would narrow our community activists to align with STEM, also known as STEM education and workforce readiness. They also said the company will no longer participate in the HRC Corporate Equality Index. Now, there are other companies that have recently changed or deleted their DEI on their website, and here are other few companies. Google is one of them, GM, GE, Pepsi, PayPal, Chipotle, 3M, Philip Morris, Intel, Comcast, and Regeneron, and Disney. Now, there are some companies that are still supporting DEI even though they are receiving backlash. Here are some companies that are still supporting DEI. One of them is Apple. Tech company made a statement saying it will continue to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. It also encouraged shareholders to reject anti-DEI proposals from the National Center for Public Policy Research. JP Morgan is another company that is still supporting DEI. The CEO, Jamie Dimon, told CNBC that his company will continue to reach out to the Black community, the Hispanic community, the LGBT community, and the veterans community. Another company is Goldman Sachs. Despite being pressured to reduce their diverse workforce, the company stated inclusion goals are geared towards supporting more women into leadership roles and making progress towards racial equity. Cisco is another company that is still supporting DEI. Cisco Chuck Robbins made a statement and said he remains steadfast in supporting diversity at the tech company. I think the pendulum swings a little wide in both directions, and for us, it's about finding the equilibrium. You cannot argue with the fact that a diverse workforce is better. Costco is another one. The CEO, Ron Vaccaris, decided to reject measures to limit or eliminate DEI initiatives. He made a comment, I quote, "Our commitment to an enterprise rooted in respect and inclusion is appropriate and necessary." Microsoft is another one and shared that its yearly DEI report and said that these values are vital to the company's mission. Salesforce is another one. The CEO, Mark Benioff, said he plans to defend his employees against attacks on diversity and inclusion. He said, I quoted, "If somebody going to come after our employees or discriminate against them in any way, we'll do everything we can to help them and support them." Pinterest is another company that is supporting DEI. The CEO, Bill Reddy, stated that their diversity is not going anywhere in their company. He said, I quote, "We're not changing anything, and the reason is we've seen it's actually leading to better engagement, and there's consumer demand for it. It's good for our business." Elf Beauty is a California-based company that is still supporting DEI because its employee and consumer base consists are on the younger side and more diverse. Delta Company, Delta's chief legal officer and corporate secretary Peter Carter said the airline remains committed to DEI and environmental, social, and governance, also known as ESG, policies because they are critical to our business. American Airlines, United Airlines, and Southwest Airlines also remain supporting DEI. Cleveland Cavaliers also made a statement and said, I quote, "We believe that everybody in our organization, every person in our community is part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion story." NASDAQ is another company. The CEO, Adina Friedman, believes that the DEI is just a good business practice. She said, I quote, "Diversity of views and diversity of backgrounds actually make us a better company and make us perform better. So we're going to continue to operate in that way." So for the companies that are removing DEI, this is how it can hurt Black businesses. One, it can reduce shelf space and visibility for Black-owned businesses. When companies roll back DEI, they might prioritize established brands over emerging Black-owned businesses, leading to fewer opportunities for Black products to be featured prominently in stores or online platforms. Also, loss of consumer trust. Customers who support DEI initiatives may choose to boycott companies that appear to be rolling back their commitment to diversity, potentially impacting sales for Black owned brands carried by those companies. Limited supplier diversity. Companies may not actively seek out Black owned businesses as suppliers when DEI program is rolled back, limiting the opportunities for Black entrepreneurs to participate in larger supply chains. So I'm going to list some Black-owned brands that are in Target because Target is going to remove these brands. So here are the brands: Ghetto Gastro, Bevel, Tabitha Brown, The Lip Bar. Honey Pot was just bought out, I think, last year. Pair of Thieves, Evolve, Partake, Good Foods, Super Gut, Afro Unicorn, Houston White, Play Pits, Thread, Be Rooted, Little Muffin Cakes, Proudly Company, Mocktail Club, Black and Bold Coffee, A Dozen Cousins, McBride Sister Wine, Capital City Mambu Sauce, United Foods, The Get Down Coffee, Brooklyn Tea, Red Bay Coffee, Miles Comfort Foods, Hot and Saucy, Bean Fruit Coffee, Yo Mama's Foods, The Do, Janita's Bar, Watermelon Water, Junaglow, Kahawa Coffee, La Feta Du Rosé Wine, Essie Spice, and Via Ray Wine. Now, some Black people decide to not shop at Target anymore. It's up to you what you want to do. Now, however, like I said earlier, it is going to hurt Black-owned companies with the rollback of DEI. And also, Target is going to remove these products off the shelves. So if you do choose to go to Target, just get the Black-owned stuff, because if the Black-owned products are not bought, then our own people are losing money. So it's up to you on what you want to do, because there are some people, they got mixed feelings about it, because if they go in there and they shop the Black-owned companies, like brands, then it's still helping Target. So use your best judgment, But however, I will post a few links of Black-owned businesses that we can support. So they're not like in the stores or anything, but they do have their websites if anybody wants to support them. But that is all for the topic for today, and now I'm going to get into the Black History Fact. Today's Black History Fact will be about Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black History Month. Carter G. Woodson was born on December 19, 1875, in New Canton, Virginia. He was the fourth of 9 children born to parents who was enslaved. Growing up during Reconstruction, he worked in the coal mines after relocating to Huntington, West Virginia. When he was only 20 years old, he saved enough money to begin matriculation at Frederick Douglass High School in Huntington, one of the few Black high schools. After earning his diploma in 2 years, he earned his first collegiate degree from Berry College in Berry, Kentucky in 1903, and obtained another bachelor's degree and a master's degree at the University of Chicago in 1908. The following year, he began teaching at Armstrong Manual Training School in Washington, D.C. He taught French, English, Spanish, and history. In 1912, he earned his Doctor of Philosophy degree in history from Harvard University. Following W.B. Du Bois, he was the second Black American to graduate with a Ph.D. from Harvard and the only person of enslaved parentage to earn a Ph.D. in history from any institution in America. Carter G. Woodson is also the founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, also known as ASALH, the first scholarly journal dedicated to African American history. He was one of the first scholars to study the history of the African diaspora and founded the Journal of Negro History in 1916. 10 years later, he launched the Negro History Week, which was celebrated during the second week of February. The date was chosen to commemorate the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. This initiative evolved into Black History Month. Black churches and schools and organizations throughout the nation embraced Carter G. Woodson initiative. The demand was so great that he and his colleagues had trouble developing course materials and other resources. His vision was to show the importance of Black history to the world. He said, I quote, "We should emphasize not Negro history, but the Negro in history. What we need is not a history of selected races or nations, but the history of the world, void of national bias, race, hate, and religious prejudice. There shall be no indulgence in undue eulogy of the Negro. The case of the Negro is well taken care of when it is shown how he has far influenced the development of civilization." Carter G. Woodson wrote more than 20 books. He wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, African Myths and Folk Tales, The History of the Negro Church, The Negro in Our History, and The Miseducation of the Negro. He wrote, I quote, "When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it." Carter G. Woodson also taught at historically Black universities, Howard University and West Virginia State University, while living in Washington, D.C. In 1976, nearly 4 decades after his passing, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in America. The designation coincided with the nation's bicentennial celebration that year. In 1986, Congress passed public law with a 99 to a 244 vote, which designated February 1986 as National Black Afro-American History Month, marking the beginning of the 60th annual public and private salute to Black history. That is all for today, and if anyone has any suggestions on what topics I should cover, please let me know in the comment section down below. But thank you everyone for listening to my podcast, and I hope you all have a lovely day.